You woke up this morning and did something your ancestors could never have imagined. You turned a handle and warm, clean water appeared from nowhere. You squeezed a tube and put a perfectly engineered paste on a plastic tool and cleaned each individual tooth. You stood under falling hot water for 10 minutes without thinking about it once. And then you probably still felt gross and needed coffee before you felt human. Now take all of that away. No handle, no tube, no falling water, no plastic anything. Just you, whatever the weather is doing, and 30 other people who are all dealing with the exact same problem. This is what hygiene looked like for 300,000 years. And the answer to how ancient humans actually handled it is not what you expect. Let's start with teeth, because right now your mouth contains roughly 700 different species of bacteria. That number does not go down just because you brush, it just gets managed. Ancient humans had none of the tools we use. No toothbrush, no toothpaste, no floss, no mouthwash. And yet, when archaeologists examine ancient human skulls, they find something genuinely surprising. The teeth are often in better condition than yours. Not always, not perfectly, but meaningfully better in specific ways. A 2013 study published in Nature Genetics analyzed the bacteria preserved in ancient human teeth going back 7,500 years and found that the diversity of harmful bacteria in human mouths actually increased dramatically after the agricultural revolution. Before farming, ancient humans ate a wide variety of foods: roots, berries, meat, nuts, leaves, and the bacterial ecosystem in their mouths reflected that variety. After farming, when humans switched to grain-heavy diets full of refined carbohydrates, the specific bacteria that caused tooth decay exploded in numbers. In other words, ancient hunter-gatherers didn't have better dental hygiene, they had better food. The moment humans invented bread, they invented cavities. But they weren't completely doing nothing either. Archaeological evidence shows ancient humans used small sticks, specifically frayed at one end, to clean between their teeth. We found these tools at sites across Africa and the Middle East, going back hundreds of thousands of years. The chewing stick, made from trees like the neem or the miswak, contains natural antibacterial compounds that actually do reduce harmful mouth bacteria. Modern studies have confirmed this. Some of them work nearly as well as a standard toothbrush. They didn't know the chemistry, they just noticed that certain sticks left their mouths feeling cleaner, and they kept using them. Now let's talk about something that is genuinely difficult to think about: body odor. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You don't actually smell as bad as you think you do when you skip a shower. The thing that makes humans smell is not the sweat itself. Sweat is mostly water and salt. It is almost completely odorless. What makes you smell is when bacteria on your skin digest the compounds in your sweat and produce waste products as a result. The bacteria responsible for the worst body odor live primarily in two places: your armpits and your groin, and they thrive in exactly the conditions that most people create by wearing the same clothes for days at a time in warm temperatures. Ancient humans, who lived in much smaller groups and spent most of their time outdoors in moving air, actually had a different relationship with their own smell. They still smelled, but the bacterial balance on their skin was different. Modern research into communities who have never used soap or deodorant has found that their skin microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria living on the surface of their bodies, is fundamentally different from ours. Not necessarily worse, just different. We have wiped out huge populations of bacteria from our skin through soap and modern hygiene. Some of those bacteria were actually doing useful things: protecting against pathogens, regulating skin pH, producing natural antimicrobials. And ancient humans understood something practical even without knowing the science. They used plants. Archaeological evidence from multiple sites shows ancient humans rubbing aromatic plants onto their skin: mint, lavender, juniper, sage. Not for the smell, for the insect-repelling properties, but the effect was the same. They smelled like the forest, which, if you think about it, was not a bad way to smell in a world made entirely of forest. Hair is where it gets genuinely complicated. Your hair, if left completely alone, goes through something called the no-poo stage, a period of several weeks where your scalp overproduces oil because it has been conditioned by regular shampooing to compensate for constant stripping. Ancient humans never started the cycle that created the problem in the first place. Their scalps produced oil at a rate calibrated for a life lived without shampoo. They kept their hair manageable through combing. We found hair combs made of bone and wood at archaeological sites going back more than 10,000 years. They picked through each other's hair to remove lice and parasites, a behavior called social grooming that anthropologists believe was one of the primary bonding mechanisms of early human groups. It wasn't just hygiene, it was connection. Robin Dunbar, the British anthropologist who developed the famous theory about the maximum size of human social groups, argues that grooming, physical, intimate contact between group members, was the original form of human social bonding before language became sophisticated enough to take over. Sitting with someone and picking through their hair is an extraordinarily intimate act. It requires trust, it requires proximity, it requires time. And ancient humans did it for hours every single day, not because they had nothing better to do, because it was one of the most important things they could do. Water. This one is simple and it is not. Ancient humans were not afraid of water. They lived near it. They needed it. They washed in it. The idea that ancient humans never bathed is completely wrong and seems to come from a confusion between ancient hunter-gatherers and medieval Europeans, who are a completely different story. Ancient hunter-gatherers living near rivers and lakes washed regularly. The Hadza of Tanzania, one of the last true hunter-gatherer groups alive today, bathe in rivers and clean themselves with water as a normal part of daily life. What ancient humans didn't have was soap. The earliest evidence of soap production comes from ancient Babylon around 2800 BCE. Before that, people used alternatives. Sand worked as an abrasive. Ash mixed with water creates a mildly alkaline solution that cuts through grease. Clay draws oils out of skin when applied and rinsed. None of these are as effective as modern soap, but they are not nothing. And for a body that had never been exposed to the bacterial populations that modern soap is designed to fight, they were often enough. And then there's the part that nobody wants to talk about, but that everybody wonders about: toilet habits. Ancient humans dealt with this the same way every other animal on Earth deals with it. They went outside, but they were smarter about it than that sounds. Multiple archaeological sites show evidence of what researchers call latrine areas, specific spots away from sleeping and eating areas that groups consistently used for waste. The Neanderthals, our closest relatives who lived alongside early humans for thousands of years, show evidence of this behavior at sites in Spain and France. This matters more than it sounds. Separating waste from living areas is one of the most important public health behaviors that exists. Most of the great plagues and epidemics of human history happened not because people were dirty in the modern sense, but because urbanization crammed thousands of people together without the space to maintain the distance between waste and water that small nomadic groups naturally maintained. Ancient hunter-gatherers, moving regularly and living in small groups, naturally avoided the sanitation catastrophes that would later kill millions of people in cities. They weren't more hygienic than medieval city dwellers because they were smarter. They were more hygienic because they never stopped moving. Here's what stays with me about all of this. For 300,000 years, humans kept themselves clean enough to survive, to thrive, to build cultures and relationships and languages and art without a single product, without a single drop of anything that came from a factory. And the methods they used, the chewing sticks, the aromatic plants, the social grooming, the latrine areas, the natural water sources, weren't primitive workarounds. They were solutions that worked. Some of them, like the antibacterial properties of miswak sticks, we are still studying today because they genuinely hold up against modern alternatives. The morning routine you did today, the hot water, the engineered paste, the falling water from nowhere, is extraordinary. It is the result of thousands of years of accumulated knowledge and industrial development, but it is solving a problem that for most of human history was solved by paying attention to the world around you, noticing which stick leaves your mouth feeling cleaner, noticing which plant keeps the insects away, noticing where to go and where not to go. Your ancestors weren't dirty, they were just working with different tools. And some of those tools, it turns out, were better than we gave them credit for.